Hi guys. So, how can you find your path or a new path in the world and build motivation towards it? Um, this is the second part of a question from Heinz, who sent me an email as a response to my newsletter, and I want to go into this because I responded to the first part in the last video where I stepped into like how, not to let failure discourage you, how to use failure for your growth and change your mindset. This is the last video, you can check it out. So when it comes to finding your path, I think this is really helpful for me. First of all, you need to decide, are we talking about like a career path, or in general your path in the world? And I think it's best if these two can be very close together, because then you don't need to make a distinction. Oh, this is my work, this is my life. I think it's worthwhile when you think about your path to think about in terms of one path that obviously involves you need to make a living and all of that, but if you really are convinced of your path and you're motivated, then most likely there's a good chance you can make a living with it. Sometimes for certain things, obviously you do them on the side, but when it comes to, let's say, your life path, which can also become like a source of income, what I found most helpful is to ask 3 questions and to look at 3 things that are very important in this. One is, what are you naturally really passionate about? That always comes up for you. The kind of books that you read, the kind of things that you want to do when you are not talking about earning money, stuff that comes naturally to you and that's just a passion for you. Number 2 is, what are you really good at? Oftentimes this can correlate, but not necessarily always. Sometimes you might be really passionate about something, but you're just not really that good at it. But oftentimes there can be an overlap, that there's things that you're really naturally passionate about and you're also really good at it, and you don't necessarily have to have a big talent, but maybe you have built that skill over time. So the third ingredient then would be what provides really like a lot of value to other people, because that is critical when you actually want to earn an income through what you do. So the question is really like, what's out of that, what you're really passionate about and what you're really good at, what of that can really provide a lot of value to other people and can be really useful to other people, that can really help them to solve problems. And problems can come in so many different ways. Could be like a computer program, software program, problem. Could be like helping them become more healthy, helping them build a house, whatever. So many problems. And if it's a big problem, then usually they are willing to pay for it, because if you can solve a big problem, usually you can get paid a good money. The harder, the trickier, the more urgent the problem, and the more useful and valuable what you can provide, usually the higher you can get paid. So if you find an overlap in these 3 things, what you're really naturally passionate about, what you're really, really good at, or you can become really good at, and what provides the most value to other people, that is a sweet spot right there where you can carve out your path. And this is actually something that I also picked up from Jim Collins, I believe. I recently listen to a great podcast from Tim Ferriss and Jim Collins. You can find it on Stitcher or iTunes or wherever. I highly recommend that podcast to you. And he talks about this, and also he's talking about meeting Peter Drucker, who is one of the, I wouldn't be able to really summarize who Peter Drucker is, because he has been a great man with a lot of insights. And one thing that he also urged people to do is, instead of thinking about, how can you be most successful, how can you, survive, think about and ask yourself the question, how can you be most useful? And then, you will definitely survive, you will definitely make a living, you will be successful when you ask yourself, how can you be most useful? And another thing then to consider is, apart from these three things, is always to bear in mind that this path also can be a huge opportunity for your growth. Because when you are passionate, when you are thinking about being useful, then you will naturally try to become your best version. And when you become your best version, then this will be an immense opportunity for your growth. So this is like, kind of an additional layer, but this will be naturally the case when you look at these three things. What you're passionate about, that will make sure that you will, have enough motivation, that you have enough endurance to really go through the struggle and the temporary defeats that will always come. But if you have passion, then you will be able to endure. And if you really become good, and when you provide value, then there's a good, it will be inevitable to also be, become materially compensated for that. And so I encourage you to look at these three things. That's something that I always try. I have tried in the past. When I deviated in one of them, usually I would, end up being unfulfilled. I would end up being struggling, and my growth would stop because I would lose motivation. And a big source of our motivation can also be just the fact that you are on a path of growth. And when you feel you're growing, then this can become a huge source for motivation. Something that I spoke more about in my previous video. So you can watch that last one. And yeah, if you want to look deeper into these topics, maybe specific tools that can provide you on a day-to-day basis to stay on that path and to stay motivated, to make sure you are always growing and you have the right mindset. I can talk a bit more about these. Just leave a comment below if you want to hear more about that. If you have a specific question, just leave a comment. And yeah, guys, give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Hit the like button below this video, share it with a friend, and make sure you subscribe if you haven't yet. I make this video every week, and I see you guys next week. Bye guys, from beautiful Switzerland.